edition of Is This a Great Game or What? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian. I'm his son, Jeff Kurkjian. We are in person for this Friday episode, and we are 2 weeks into the Major League Baseball season, and it's day 2 of the Masters.
Right, and a big highlight of the second week of the season, we had a recall by the Boston Red Sox. Blake Sabol got called up, and I just want to know if you remember what the distinction of Blake Sabol is.
Baseball, okay.
It's an anagram.
Is
Blake
it right?
Sabol's name is an anagram for okay baseball or baseball okay, however you want to look at it.
Seems like he's been playing better than okay baseball.
Right.
If he's getting called
back
up.
in the big leagues. That's so good. And Jeff, the Masters week, we love the Masters. To me, it's one of the great sports weekends of the year. And I'm always fascinated by how much baseball players love to play golf. You could talk to any baseball player. Virtually all of them has played, and a lot of them are really good at it. The swings are similar. The focus is similar. The approach is similar. The games are similar. To me, golf is the second hardest game in the world to play. Baseball is the hardest. Of course, I've never ice skated before, so hockey has every right to say, hey, try doing that on skates.
Or we should have asked Eddie Alvarez when we had him on last year, speed skater, Olympic speed skater, and baseball player.
Right. I just think baseball is harder than golf because of the danger involved. I've never really actually been afraid out on a golf course, but when you got 95 coming near your head, that's the fear of God going through you.
Mm-hmm. And so the connection between those two, we're going to have a lot of golf in today's episode, which is great.
Absolutely. Okay, so many baseball players love golf. One of my all-time favorite players is Jim Kaat. I went into the Hall of Fame with him the same year. Can't even begin to tell you what a thrill that is. So a couple years ago, Jim Kaat, after I pulled it out of him, confirmed this, he shot his age twice in 1 week, and he did it once playing left-handed, and then he did it playing right-handed. So he can play either way, and he broke 80 while he was 80 years old twice in the same week. Once left-handed, once right-handed. Is that incredible?
I mean, I don't think I'll ever break 80 in my golf career, and he did it with both.
I'm sure about that, Jeff. Never mind. All right, so we had John Smoltz on this time last year,
Yeah, we did.
and he may have had another hole-in-one since, but he's got 11 holes-in-one in his career. And he told me on a flight a couple of years ago, he said it took me like 8 years to get my 11th hole-in-one. I didn't think I could ever top my 10th hole-in-one because it came on a par 4. But in this one, they're playing a match, and they're at 17, of course, and the whole match is riding on the 17th hole. And the two guys on the other team, 2 against 2, hit the ball 3 and 4 feet away from the hole, and they're going to win with a birdie. They're going to win. So Smoltz then gets up and hits it in the hole for a hole-in-one, and they win the round. That's how it worked. It just reminded me, though, Mike Maddox, brother of Greg Maddox, he had 2 holes-in-one in 1 day. So he played 1 round of golf, and he got a hole-in-one on the front 9 and a hole-in-one on the back 9. And I've seen the scorecard of the 2 holes-in-one in 1 day. Is that amazing or what?
The craziest thing is he still shot 104. just kidding.
No, Mike Maddox is
Great
good.
player.
Mark Mulder is great. Mark Mulder was a teammate of mine briefly at ESPN, one of the great pitchers in Oakland A's history, and he plays on another tour. It's not the Hooters tour, it's not the PGA tour, but he plays on a tour in which a bunch of former players are playing. He's a tremendous player. And just to show you how difficult golf can be, he told me that like the first tournament in which he was playing, he had trouble taking the club back. He was that nervous.
Wow.
Now, he's a sub-scratch player,
Yeah.
and he has trouble taking the club back because of all the gallery there. And I'm thinking, you pitched in front of 50,000 people, but he said that is really, really different when golf is your second sport, not your first sport like baseball.
Yeah, I think for average golfers or below average golfers, as I would say for myself, the nerves of playing in front of people, if you had to play at the Masters or something, I would be scared. not only that I'm going to hit it into the woods, but that I'm going to kill somebody.
Right. And that will be our Kurkjian Quandary for the day, which we will talk about later in this podcast. So a few years ago, Jeff Francoeur and John Smoltz and Adam LaRoche, who were all 3 handicaps or lower, and of course Smoltz he's a sub-scratch player. They played Tiger Woods in his prime. This is many years ago. So Smoltz had a bad day, and they played 3 against 1. Tiger's ball against their 3 balls, best ball against 1, and Tiger crushed him. Just to show you the difference between levels of all sports, but especially in golf. So I asked Francoeur, I said, so tell me what it was like playing with Tiger. And I expected him to say it was unbelievable because of how high he hit it, or the sound that it made, or how far he hit it, or whatever. He said it was unbelievable what Tiger was like in his prime. He was the life of the party, walking down the fairway, on the tee, on the green, whatever. But the second he looked down to take his shot, he went into a complete trance. Wow. Like he didn't even know what was going on. He would make some incredible shot, and then he would come out of the trance and be everyone's best friend again.
As a historian of the game, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who could you compare Tiger's focus in that way, where so fun in the clubhouse, such a great time, but as soon as they put that helmet on, or as soon as they step on that mound, they're a completely different individual, and then it's like almost Bruce Banner and the Hulk type.
Right. Well, there are a lot of guys like that. I remember talking to Roger Clemens after he got lit up one night, and I just basically said, like, what happened? And he goes, I could hear the fans. And what it meant was he was not completely focused. He was not in that zone, and he could hear all the stuff going around him instead of just doing what he does best, and that is look at the catcher's mitt and throw a strike. Mark McGwire, many years ago during his prime, hit a grand slam in a game. So David Howard was his teammate with the Cardinals, and Mark McGwire comes back, sits on the bench, and he's still in this zone that people can't even understand. And David Howard comes up to him. He's sitting on the bench. He's already rounded the bases. Said, way to go, Mark. Grand slam. Way to go. And McGwire looks at him and goes, the bases were loaded. Were the bases loaded? He didn't even know at the time because he was so focused on what he was trying to do. That's how all of the great golfers, NFL players, NBA basketball players, and certainly baseball players are.
And you mentioned Jeff Francoeur. We would be remiss if we don't take a second to rewind to our interview with Jeff Francoeur. We've referenced this moment so many times on the podcast. Not only is it our best golf moment from our podcast in 2024, you could argue it's the best story we heard in the entire podcast sphere of 2024.
Right. 35 interviews we did last year. This was my favorite answer to any question. And Jeff Francoeur said, I've never told this story before. And here it is. What was it like playing with arguably the greatest player of all time?
I'll tell you, I've never actually told this story on anything. And I think this will be the greatest story I tell was, I got a chance to play with him a couple times. I was 22 years old, and it was incredible. I grew up my whole life watching this guy, and I'll never forget pulling into Isleworth the first time and seeing him on the range. And it was probably the most surreal moment of my life. I've been lucky enough. I've met President Bush, President Obama. I was not nearly as starstruck as I was when I met Tiger Woods for the first time. But what the coolest Bobby Cox story is, guys, is, Bobby during spring training loved us to play golf, loved this. We were playing the Yankees at 1:00 on a day game. And I was 22 years old. I had been playing for 3 months as a starter. I was not going to go up to Bobby and be like, hey, I need the day off, right? But he comes out to stretch and goes, Smoltzy said you had a chance to play with Tiger today. There was a 1:50 tee time. And I'm like, Bobby, I'm fine. I'm playing today. He goes, no, I'll make you a deal. He said, after your first at bat today, run through first base and kind of rub your ankle a little bit like you hurt your ankle. And he's like, in 2 days, we're going to Bradenton. And Tim, you have to have 3 starters make a road trip.
Sure.
And he's like, I hate Bradenton's infield. I don't want to get any of the guys hurt. So if you go to Bradenton, I'll let you go play with Tiger today. So sure enough, man, we're playing the Yankees, 13,000 people in Orlando. I ground out the first at bat. I run through first and I start, rubbing my ankle. And, Bobby, he waddles out there with his cleats. And he checks on me. I run inside. I literally throw my golf clothes on. I didn't shower. I get to the golf course and they're on the first fairway. So I hit my tee shot. We end up playing 27 holes. And about 4:30, my wife sends me a little thing that there was an update that said Frank Court day-to-day with a high ankle sprain. And I'm out there playing hours with Tiger. So the best part is the next day, I didn't have to do anything. I came in, like, iced my ankle and all that, and Bobby let me go that day.
I remember, Dad, the look on your face as that story was unfolding. I know it sounds silly, but it's something I'll never forget. There's no better feeling as a journalist of the game, a lover of the game like I am, when somebody says, I've never told this story. We're all sitting on the edge of our seats getting so excited.
I can't wait to hear it, and it was worth the wait.
Let's go to our takeaways right now, 2 weeks into the regular season.
Okay, the last week has been freezing cold, Jeff. And
really
I've said this a million times, and I overdo this terribly sometimes, but baseball is the hardest game in the world to play for me. It's virtually impossible to play in really good weather. Now you throw in 38-degree temperatures, howling wind, snow, rain, whatever, and we got all of that like the second week of the baseball season and the first. I don't know how guys get through it. I told you last week that Harrison Bader told me he takes liniment and rubs it all over his body, and then he takes baby oil and rubs it all over his body, head to toe, in order to, try to stay warmer, and then he puts layers on top. That's what players will do. By the way, in talking to Harrison Bader, I asked him, because he's new with the Twins, I said, are you all set up here? Do you have an apartment? Do you have a hotel? Where are you staying? He goes, yeah, I've got an apartment. My mom came and set it up for me. I'm thinking, I said to him, what are you, 12 years old? And he goes, yes, I'm 12 years old still. His point is, maybe I shouldn't find this so funny, because he's roughly your age, Jeff. And Mom would come help you set up your first apartment somewhere, but his mother came to Minneapolis and helped him set up the whole thing. He said, she's the number one woman in my life. She always has been. She always will be. And she came in and helped me do it. And again, he said, it's a very Spartan-like apartment. We don't have pictures all over the wall, but my mom came in and took care of me. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, moms can make a house into a home. You
Right.
know, bring the little decor pieces. Mom actually, when I moved into my very first apartment on my own, when I moved to Las Vegas, she went out and bought all these decor pieces, things for the wall, couch, pillows, all that stuff. And she also bought me 3 cacti, multiple cactuses. And I drowned them. I didn't know you're not supposed to feed them every day.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not going to let these die. And they died because I overfed
Right.
the cacti.
Well, we'll get to this for the portable battery later in the show also. I did something.
Talk about overfeeding.
Very, very similar to that.
That's for poor Pop-Pop. That's coming up shortly.
That's coming up. All right, so guys will do whatever it can to stay warm in a game. But Johnny Oates, former Major League catcher, told me when he's catching on a really cold night, in between innings, he would take his catcher's mitt and put it in the microwave oven in order to heat it up so it was more flexible and felt warmer on his hand, because he's got a catch ball thrown at 95 miles an hour. So Bill Spires, former shortstop for the Brewers, told me once, early 90s, it doesn't matter what year it was, but Cal Eldred was starting opening day for the Brewers in Milwaukee. Now, this is pre-Miller Park, so there's no roof at County Stadium. When that wind came off the lake at County Stadium in Milwaukee in April, oh my God, it's the coldest thing in the world. So Bill Spires says it was 29 degrees at game time. This is what he told me. But he said with the wind chill, it was 9 degrees outside. And he said, and I'm the shortstop, he said, and he was a good shortstop. He said, I had my right hand in my back pocket the entire first inning. And he said, and my glove was literally frozen because it was so cold. It can happen. Your glove can freeze and it stiffens and everything else. And he said, poor Cal had trouble throwing strikes. Top of the first inning took 31 minutes. And it's 9 degrees wind chill. And Bill Spires looked at me, he goes, it's the only time in my entire career I ever said to myself, please, don't hit it to me.
Right.
Because his hand was frozen. Right. His glove was frozen. So those are just a few of the cold weather stories. I don't know how you get through it. It's so difficult to play the game in perfect weather. It's almost impossible when the weather is freezing cold like that. All right, the other thing, Jeff, I always mean to tell people that we get so bent out of shape about opening day or the first week of the season, which is like getting bent out of shape about the first half of an NFL football game. You've already determined our team stinks, and we played one half.
Sounds a lot like you.
Yes. Well, when the Redskins used to be down 21-0 at half, I would say that's it. Season's over, right? That's the way it works. So the lesson, Jeff, is to not get too high or too low by the first week of the season because everything can change. Yep. Remember the Dodgers went 8-0. Dodgers are great. Dodgers are the best team in baseball for me. I think they're the odds-on favorite to win the World Series. None of this is important. They start out 8-0. Best record ever for a defending world champion, all right? And as of yesterday morning, as we're taping this, they were in third place in their own division.
Yep.
So these things can happen. Rafael Devers, of course, starts out 0-21. First 19 at-bats, he strikes out 15 times, breaks every record for most strikeouts first 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games. Absolutely terrible. And then on Thursday morning, he wakes up and he's got an 801 OPS, which is pretty darn good.
Right.
And then, of course, we made a big deal out of Jackson Chourio of the Brewers, who went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts on opening day. One of 3 players ever to go 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts on opening day. And of course, since then, he's had 2 5 RBI games. So these things, he hasn't walked yet, by the way, at least through Wednesday, but it just shows you do not get too worried about your team and do not get too excited about your team because everything can switch and move in a week.
Yeah, we look at the way the Mets started the year, even made halfway through the year, then they were a playoff team.
Right, and the Tigers got swept in L.A. in the first weekend of the season. And said, the Tigers aren't a playoff team. Now, going into Thursday morning, they were in first place in the AL Central. Those things happen.
What do you got for Quirkjians today? The kind of ins and outs, quirks of our great game.
All right, so the Guardians beat the White Sox the other day 1-0 with a walk-off walk to end the game. Obviously, walk-off walk. So the last time that happened was 2009, where a team won a game 1-0 on a walk-off walk. But this game ended not just on one walk, but on 3 consecutive walks. So 3 walks ended the game and scored the only run. The last time that happened was in 1989. Mike Stanton, relief pitcher, issued 2 intentional walks to the Dodgers and then walked Mike Sharperson with the bases loaded to end the game. So it's been since 1989 that any game ended 1-0 with 3 consecutive walks to end the game.
You know, you would think White Sox fans don't have any more things to be upset about with the performance last year.
Right.
Losing a game on 3 straight walks will be up there for them.
Not too good. So Luis Castillo pitches for the Mariners, and he's really good, as we know. So there's another Luis Castillo on the team.
I was going to bring this one up.
And they started Luis Castillo's in back-to-back games. But the second Luis Castillo goes by Luis F. Castillo in order to differentiate him from Luis Castillo. So it's confusing enough because there are a lot of Luises and a lot of Castillos out there. We have 2 of them not only on the same team, they're in the same rotation, and they pitched in back-to-back games.
You know, it might get confusing if anybody's upset with the performance of Luis Castillo, because they might say, F. Castillo. It might be a little... No, that's the wrong one.
Wrong run, right.
Wrong route.
Exactly. All right, so we made a point last week, Jeff, that leadoff hitters just aren't what they used to be. Back when I grew up, the leadoff guy was your pixie little leadoff second baseman who got on base, stole a base, put the ball in play, all that. So already this year, we've had 5 different leadoff guys in a game strike out 4 or more times. Jackson Chourio, who we mentioned, did it 5 times. Jose Altuve, who we mentioned on a few days ago, 5 times out of the leadoff spot. So believe it or not, last year, before the month of May, 6 leadoff guys had struck out 4 times in a game, and the year before, 2023, 7 leadoff guys had struck out 4 or more times in a game. Just another lesson, Jeff. We don't care if you strike out anymore, and it's okay to be a leadoff guy and strike out 1,000,000 times as long as you can do what Altuve does and Chourio does, drive in runs, hit home runs. That's just the way it works. All right, last question of the week. So on Wednesday night, the Brewers won a game 17-2, and they only scored in 3 innings. So they had a 5-run inning, a 5-run inning, and a 7-run inning. So they played 9 innings, and they only scored in 3 of those innings, but they scored 17 runs. So the last team to do that, thanks to Frank from the Elias, were the White Sox 9 years ago, who scored 17 runs in a game, scoring in only 3 innings. But this did remind me of the famous 30-3 game that the Orioles played against the Rangers, 2007, the day of your 9th grade orientation at Quince Orchard, which I went to, of course, to make sure my son is going to be okay in high school.
Did I ever tell you I went to Quince Orchard High School?
So I missed the game. I watched the first 3 innings, all true. I watched the first 3 innings, and I have to turn my phone off because I'm in school, and I have to be respectful of the whole process. So I get home, and I get this call from Ed Schimmel, and he one of our producers at ESPN. He said, "Did you hear what happened in Baltimore? I thought the stadium had blown up or something." Yeah. He said the Rangers won 30-3. So they scored 30 unanswered runs. And the point is, they scored those 30 runs in 4 different innings. So that's it. So they didn't score in all 9 innings or 8 innings. 8, yeah. They scored in 4 innings, and they still scored 30 runs.
Got anything for on this date in baseball?
Oh, yeah,
history?
we have some good friends. John Shambi, who's the broadcaster. It's Boog's birthday today. Boog,
no way.
Yes, Boog Shambi is my dear friend. He does Cubs games, and he does ESPN radio games on ESPN on Sunday nights. So we once had an argument. Whose name has been pronounced incorrectly more times, my name or his name? And he would not take no for an answer. He says, my name has been mispronounced, John Sciambi, Sciambi. I think I've got that right. Not important.
You have it right. Yeah.
Right. And he said, I've gotten Scalabrini. I've gotten so many. Scampi, right. All the time. And he said, I'm telling you, someone almost choked to death trying to pronounce my name. So I explained Kurkjian is pretty hard to do also, but happy birthday to Boog Sciambi, one of my all-time favorites. 1980, Mark Teixeira was born. Mark Teixeira is one of the best first basemen the Yankees have ever had, a really good major leaguer for years, and a teammate of mine at ESPN for several years. Thoroughly enjoyed being with Tex.
A guest I hope to have on the podcast.
Oh, we can get Tex, I'm sure. Tex has a lot of great things to say. He's a really smart and very worldly guy. And get this, Jeff, he hit 409 home runs, and he had never hit a walk-off homer until the last homer he hit in the major leagues. So the first walk-off homer he hit was the last homer he hit in the big leagues. And get this, it was a walk-off homer against the Red Sox, the arch rival of the Yankees. And it was a walk-off grand slam. So this should be the coolest thing ever, except the Red Sox earlier in the game had clinched the division title. So even though Mark Teixeira indeed hit a walk-off grand slam to end a Yankee-Red Sox game, the game ended up being meaningless because the Red Sox had already qualified for the playoffs. So it didn't matter that they lost that game. And last thing, we're going to do this every week if we have to. Luis Arraez hit for the cycle for the Marlins on this date in 2023. The first Marlin ever to hit for the cycle, and they've been around since 1994. So what's the gratuitous question now about the cycle? I've said this on every episode.
Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, and Hank Aaron.
Yes! Jeff, you are learning. I am so proud of you.
You scared me for a second. I was thinking Carson Kelly, because we talked about him.
And Blake Sable, right, we talked about him.
A lot of stuff you're stuffing in this brain. Coming up next, though, Dad, one, I've got a little surprise for you. Okay. But also, we have a Kurkjian Quandary that has to do with us average golfers. We're going to hear about who my dad thinks is the greatest Royal of all time. And we're going to have a moment for poor Pop.
And we're going to have an I am a seamhead moment that you will not believe.
It's all coming up next on Is This a Great Game or What? Welcome back to Is This a Great Game or What? And if you're listening instead of watching, we put every single episode up on YouTube, right? And you also can see video clips at Great Game or What on all of our social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook specifically. I have changed from one coat to now my green jacket, which we won in the Jones Lane Open, which is named after my elementary school. A, quite frankly, amazing but truly low-level golf tournament in our neighborhood.
All right, Jeff, we won at -5. It was a 4-man scramble, and we were -5. Now, keep in mind, I've won the Jones Lane a couple other times, and we won it. We set the course record with a -8. -5 is not a good score in a 4-man scramble. In fact, I played in a scramble like a month later, and the winning score was -21. And here we are trying on a green jacket because we were -5, but we still won the tournament, and we still had a green jacket ceremony afterwards. It was wonderful.
And I put the green jacket on not only to celebrate the Masters, but also because our Kurkjian Quandary for this week is this, and we want you to answer. You can message us, greatgameorwhat.com, or you can just let us know in the comments as well if you're watching on social media. An 18 handicap plays at the Masters.
On Sunday. On TV.
And also with either Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy as your partner. So here you are in front of the crowd. You're on television. You're playing with one of the greatest golfers of all time. What does an 18 handicap score?
Now, let me explain who the 18 handicap is. And I'm not being critical because I'm not even sure I'm an 18. I used to be a 10. That was a long time ago. I'm not sure what I am anymore. All I know is the average 18 is playing his little municipal course from the white tees, 5,900 yards. He's raking 3-footers. He is teeing the ball up in the fairway. He has a triple bogey maximum, and he's not even playing by all the rules because he doesn't know all the rules. My point would be, if he's playing at the Masters with Tiger and Phil, and the cameras are on, and he has to putt out on every hole, and he has to follow every rule of golf, otherwise there's a penalty involved, including if you incorrectly mark your ball. Right. I did that in a tournament once. I didn't even know the difference. What is that guy going to shoot? So what do you think he's going to shoot at the Masters on Sunday with all the pressure that the Masters brings?
I'm going to say that he's shooting 150.
Okay, I'm going higher. I think the pressure alone is going to destroy him. I think there are a couple shots and a couple holes where he might end up making a 20. And if you make a 20 on a hole, it's going to be hard to shoot 140. I'm going 175. That's what I think.
Wow.
I think the course, even though it's not the hardest course in the world, the U.S. Open courses are harder, the ones that are 7,400 yards. Of course, I think the 18 shoots a 200 on those.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, some 18s aren't even going to be able to finish the round. But you have to finish the round. And I think, I may be being unkind here, I think 175 is what an 18 handicap shoots because he's never, ever been in a sand trap like that, never been on a green like that, never putted a green that fast, and of course, never played under the pressure of the fairway being lined with people.
What do you think? You can let us know, greatgameorwhat.com, or in the comments right below. What would an 18 handicap shoot? And air quotes, 18 handicap shoot.
Right.
Whatever that is, as Dad defined. Let us know in the comments at Augusta and the Masters. The one advantage of him playing, though, is the sandwiches are only $1.50.
Yeah, I have never been to the Masters. It is a bucket list thing. I'd love to go because apparently things are done really well there for spectators also.
All right, I'm going to make a quick change with the magic of editing and podcasting, and now I'm back in my normal jacket. I didn't want to do the whole show in my green jacket, or else I would...
That would be a bit hokey, Joe.
A bit hokey and pretentious, so I didn't want to do that. I feel like Michael Scott when he became Prison Mike. Just did a quick change in front of everybody like you didn't know who I was before. Let's keep rolling into Ozzie. From Ozzie to Orel, we're going 1 to 55, the greatest numbers to wear each player. We had 5 last week, which was quite a debate. social media has spoken out loudly in support of you and also in support of some of the other ones that you said you were okay with if they called it.
Totally okay.
But now we're on to 6 and 7, which you're kind of saying.
All right. No.
Your list.
I'm not kind of saying, Jeff. It's my list, and I keep telling you it's not the correct list. These are the correct players. Number 6, of course, is Stan Musial. Stan Musial might be the most underrated superstar player of all time because he was overshadowed by Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Ted Williams, whereas in the National League all those years, he was just tearing it up. 331 lifetime hitter. And again, Jeff, you know this. He got exactly as many hits at home, 1815, as he did on the road. 1850, 3,630 hits with tremendous power, had over 100 extra base hits a couple years. And one year, 1943, Jeff, he had 20 triples and struck out 18 times.
Wow.
So we were just talking about Rafael Devers struck out 15 times in his first 19 at-bats.
Yep.
Stan Musial played an entire year and struck out 18 times and hit 20 triples during that season. So he's number 6. There's not a close second. There's no argument here. I'm not listening to anybody, at least this time.
Who would you say is the greatest number 7 of all time?
Also, no argument. Mickey Mantle is the greatest number 7 ever. Jeff, he was overshadowed just a little bit by Willie Mays. But I'm telling you, Willie Mays is the greatest player I've ever seen, okay? And I'm telling you, during his prime years, Mickey Mantle was just as good as Willie Mays. Now, his prime years didn't last as long as Willie Mays's did because Mickey Mantle got hurt, famously hurt his knee running through the outfield in the game and all that. But you go back and look at Mickey Mantle's prime, Triple Crown, MVPs, championships like every year. And I think you can make a case that he was the fastest guy in the league and the strongest guy in the league at the same time. Mickey Mantle could fly and had tremendous power, of course, from both sides of the plate. Greatest switch hitter ever. There is no debate about that. And when you look at the greatest center fielders ever, again, this is very debatable, but I go Willie Mays, Ty Cobb, Mickey Mantle. That's it. Those are the top 3 center fielders of all time. And if he had stayed healthier, he would have been even better. So 6 is Stan Musial, 7 is Mickey Mantle.
Let's move on to the best of all. Tim, Dad, we are going through the best player in each organization. And today, I've chosen for you the Kansas City Royals.
Right. And I'm glad you did because this is also an easy one. There's no debate here.
Darn it.
Right.
I need to be more challenging for you.
George, and we'll get many challenges as we move ahead. George Brett's the greatest Kansas City Royal ever. There is not a close second. Mm-hmm. He won a batting title in 3 different decades. He's a lifetime 300 hitter for me after Mike Schmidt and Eddie Matthews. He's the greatest third baseman of all time. Still holds a major league record. He had 6 straight 3-hit games. No one, not Ichiro, not Ty Cobb, nobody's ever had 6 consecutive 3-hit games. So the story about George Brett that I'm going to tell because it's Masters Week. George got hurt one year and he's on crutches. He can't play. He's on the disabled list. But he goes to the team's golf tournament because he's the best player on the team. And he's on crutches on the 18th green, welcoming all the groups that come through.
Cool, yeah.
Right. So, and he's got his putter with him because he's just
probably putting around.
But he can't hit because he's got a sprained ankle that is really injured badly. So, one of the groups decide, while the other group of Royals is putting on the green, that they're going to hit into the green and see if they can on purpose. And see if they can make everyone on the green scatter. So George Brett sees the ball coming right at him onto the green from 150 yards away. Now, this story has been confirmed, Jeff, by him and by others who were there. George Brett drops his crutches, sees a golf ball coming, takes his putter with a blade, 2 inches wide, like every other putter, hits the ball out of midair and hits it 150 yards back down the fairway. So I go to George and said, George, I've heard this story. This can't be true. So finally he acknowledges, yes, it's true. I said, George, that's impossible. No one could do that. And he goes, well, it was 1980. That was the year he batted .390. And everything that he swung at, he hit hard, including a golf ball in midair. He hit with his putter all the way down the fairway.
It's time for Poor Pop-Up, our chance to Well, kind of wallow in my dad's inability to connect with pop culture or technology. And we
Or
love you,
most
Dad.
anything, right?
Yeah, and I think this story is perhaps one of my favorites of all time. It involves Yankee Stadium and technology,
Right.
please.
All right, it's a baseball question. So at the playoffs last year, I left my portable phone charger plugged in at Yankee Stadium. It's a big thing. It looks like your cell phone. It's that big.
It's a power bank.
It's a power bank, and it's underneath the desk when we broadcast Carl Ravitch, Eduardo Perez, and I at Yankee Stadium.
And it has one of those, just so people can get the visual, it pops out the two prongs.
Right.
So it's not a cord that you would plug in.
Right.
The prongs tap out, and then you plug it right in. So it sits flush with the wall, more or less, just right up against the socket.
So I knew it was gone, so I didn't even bother to check. Could someone go check for me? Because I knew, well, I left it there. So 6 months later, which was just the other day, the first Saturday of the baseball season, I go into the press box at Yankee Stadium, and I look, and I'm not even looking for it because I think it's got to be long gone, and there it is. My power charger is still plugged into the wall exactly where I left it 6 months ago. And I'm so thrilled because I tried 3 different times, Jeff, to buy a new portable cell phone charger, and I never could find one that either fit my phone or actually worked. And I'm thinking, oh, this is so great. And it's recharged because it's been plugged in for the last 6 months. So I take it out of the wall, and of course it's got the 4 lights, which even I know that means it's fully charged. And then I tried to recharge my phone, and it didn't work. So please explain to me. I'm not an engineer.
Dad,
how does this work?
It's a battery. So if you keep the battery plugged in for too long, it starts to weaken the strength of the battery because you are overcharging. So that's why, like, a lot of people don't charge their phone all throughout the night. Maybe they charge it for the day, during the day, see it go up to 90%. Or like Mark, your son-in-law, my brother-in-law, he has an electric car, and a lot of these electric car owners, they don't charge their car up to 100%. They only charge it to 80 or 90% as to not burn the battery. So that's 6 months hidden and plugged into the Yankee. Yeah, it's definitely
I was
dead.
so excited to find it. It was a celebration, and then I plugged it in, and I said, oh, my God, it doesn't work.
What a letdown.
What a bitter
Poor
pill that was.
Pop-Pop.
Poor Pop-Pop.
Poor Pop-Pop. We have I Am a Seamhead. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite new segments we're doing on the podcast in 2025, Dad. And we're getting submissions. We're rifling through as many as we can. We're doing this every Friday. So if you want to send us a submission, all you got to do is in 30 seconds tell us why you are a seamhead, whether it's the things you've collected over the years, the knowledge that you have, the weird things you've memorized, and then end your voice note with, I'm Jeff Kurkjian, and I am a seamhead. Obviously, don't use my name, use your name, and we'll play them back on the air.
Right, and our I Am a Seamhead this week is Mike Petica, and I will let you listen to what makes him such a seamhead.
I had always been able to figure numbers quickly in my head. Other writers and Indians public relations guys would often ask me to update averages. It might be, Mike, what's 142 of 483? And I'd almost immediately say 294. Earned run averages were a bit more complicated, but it would take me only a couple more seconds. Guys would get a kick out of seeing if I could beat them, figuring the numbers as they checked the book or tapped on the calculator. I think I usually won. I'm Mike Petica, and I'm a seamhead.
See, this is a prime example, Dad, of why I just don't see people obsessing over other sports quite the way seamheads obsess over baseball.
Right. So I met Mike for the first time in 1982. So if anyone questions whether he can do this or not, trust me, I was there. 1982. I'm like 12 years old. I'm going around the circuit for the first time, and I meet this guy in the Indians clubhouse. I mean, in the Indians press box, and the other writer said, "Wait till you see what this guy can do." So we challenged him. You're like, okay, Mike, what is 112 hits in 518 at bats? And literally within 2 seconds, he could tell you what it was. I've never seen. And Jeff, again, your grandfather, my father, Pop, was a PhD in mathematics. MIT undergrad. He had a great mathematical mind. There's no chance he had any shot to do anything like this. In fact, Mike is the only one I've ever seen who could do anything like this. Do they do this in other sports? Can you figure out a shooting percentage in the NBA or a completion percentage in the NFL? I don't think so. I think it only works this way, at least better in baseball.
If you want to contribute, you can email me, jeff@greatgameorwhat. 30-second message, end it with "my name is," and I am a seamhead, and we would love to get to yours here on the show. Dad, very excited because this is releasing on Friday, April 11th. Also happening on Friday, April 11th, we are driving up to Syracuse, New York, and interviewing our very special guest for our next episode, Coach Jim Boeheim, longtime coach and former player of the Syracuse Orange, my alma mater, who is a massive baseball fan.
Right. So I met Coach 16 years ago when Kelly Kurkjian, your sister, went to Syracuse for the first time. And somehow I got a chance to meet with Kelly, Coach Boeheim. So he knows who I am because he loves baseball. So
Right.
I expect to go ask him like a million questions about the Cuse and about helping coach the Olympic team and all that. He asked me all the questions because he's the biggest Yankee fan in the world. So tomorrow, Friday, which will run on Tuesday, we're going to sit and talk to Coach Boeheim. And my fervent hope is we don't ask him one basketball question. Not because I don't love basketball. I just want to know where his love for baseball comes from, because that's what this show is all about, Jeff. Where did you get the love from?
Yeah.
And how have you kept it? And what do you do to keep it? And those are the questions we're going to ask Coach when we get to Syracuse.
And you're going to hear that on Tuesday with a brand new episode of Is This a Great Game or What? Thank you for listening. And as always, thank you for being a part of our family.